The Boy Wonder issue one, Juni Ba, both writing and art. I wasn't familiar with Juni Ba's work, so this was kind of a maiden voyage. Had no idea what to expect. What's interesting about this Black Label book is that it's set in the early days of Damien, right? Being, in Gotham with Batman and the other Bat family members, but it is out of continuity in that it kind of does its own take on it, where like it's not that different in the sense that he was raised by Talia and Raz and came to Gotham, but the things that are different is that seemingly Batman R.I.P. and all that stuff doesn't happen soon after. The big thing is that Nightwing and Babs actually have a kid by the sounds of it, because they're talking about having a babysitter. I will say first, the art is pretty good. I will say it's not always to my taste. I do think like the regular faces are a bit too simplistic and cartoony for me. That said, though, I do think stuff like when Damien's in silhouette or he's in his outfit with his hood up and he's kind of stalking someone or whatever, I think that stuff is super cool looking, and it definitely has a very consistent style. So it's a sort of thing where it's not all to my taste, but generally speaking, I kind of appreciate it for the overall aesthetic that it kind of gives it.
Does Clayface pop up?
He does. Why?
Okay, because I'm looking at the art through on League of Comic Geeks, and I get what you're saying. Some of the finer details are a little bit like cartoony, but like his Nightwing looks pretty good, right? Like
yeah. So yeah, basically it does the thing from Batman and Son, or maybe it was a story. I can't remember, but the idea that Damien kills like a mugger in Gotham, and Bruce isn't happy with it, so he benches him for the time being until he can, get on with things. And some of the really cool bits are actually there's these panels where, and you can kind of see this in the cover, where it gets a little bit more, like it's doing more of an interpretive thing where you can see like a sort of like demonic Robin head over his face, and it kind of like grows and becomes bigger and stuff, and it kind of does that after this moment where Batman kind of shuns him for killing someone. But basically he's benched and Batman goes off to save the universe with the Justice League, right? by the looks of it. Really simple little panel. But he's not been left to like look after things. It's the rest of the family. It's the others, right? Because the start of the book's Damon's narration, and he's talking about how there was 3 Robins, and he describes, Dick, who's like the kind and whatever one. Jason's the angry one, and then Tim's the logical one. And then I came along, the actual blood child, the one who is going to be heir to the throne or whatever. But so the main part of the story is that Damien decides that he's going to suit up when he hears a news report, or he sees it on his phone because he's got a smartphone, which I guess is also kind of a change, because technically when Batman and Son was written, it was right before smartphones were a thing. It was right around that time they were starting to be a thing, so I guess that's a bit of a timeline shift as well. But he decides to go out and go hunting on his own. So Alfred sees him leaving and calls Dick and says, "Hey, sorry to disturb you, but you may have to be aware that Master Damien's going out on his own." And there's a great little panel here, and this is when the art really shines, is where Damien's in like complete silhouette under his hood, and then he hears like Alfred talking to Dick, and he gets angry, and the background goes from blue to yellow, and he has like red anger lines coming off of his head, and you just see like the teeth kind of like grit when he's otherwise like in silhouette. It looks really good. It's very, a lot of energy, a lot of style and cartoony. So that's kind of what I'm saying when I say I kind of like it overall, even though I don't love the faces on their own. But yeah, he goes hunting for what's going on, and he's pissed to find that Babs and Dick, Nightwing and Batgirl are already there. And this was one of the even before they sort of mention about having a babysitter, like they're in a relationship and they're talking about making sure that someone's looking after the kid. And maybe we'll find out who the kid is in a future issue. We don't see them in this one. But even the fact that Babs is Batgirl in this outfit, I'm like, wait a minute. Yep. If this was set during Batman and Son kind of era of time, then Babs wasn't Batgirl. In fact, she was still Oracle at that time. So that was kind of the first big sign that, oh, we're really doing something different here. Is that I kind of already thought that with Batman leaving with the Justice League, but I thought, oh, maybe I'm misremembering, or they're saying it in between some stories that I'm not thinking about. But this was like, oh no, this is just completely different. We're doing which is interesting to me that we're doing like out of continuity stories, but the baseline for them is a much more modern version of the world. Because normally when they do it out of continuity, it's like, oh, the Silver Age is kind of the basis because it's kind of like a neutral, less complicated version of the DC world. It's everyone's back at their basics. It's interesting that we're doing that here with like the sort of mid to late 2000s, where okay, we're doing our own take on it, but the overall like baseline for it is from this era kind of thing. So anyway, cool.
Yeah, kind of like what Wade was doing with his Teen Titans Year One.
Kind of, yeah, where he's kind of like updating things with in a different way. Obviously, the fact that Babs, because I talk about baby formula and getting a sitter and whatnot, I'm like, okay, this is the thing that makes it super out of continuity, because it's not like we're retconning in them having a kid all the way from back then. So, yeah, one of my favorite panels actually is Nightwing uses one of his sticks to block something, and in the background, behind the glass, it's just like a very simple like shadow or silhouette of like Damien. He almost looks like a snowman, just with like stick hands, but you just see this like upset like frown on his face, and he just like there's a faded out speech bubble saying, "I could have done that too." Like this is like really early Damien. This is Damien who wants to prove himself, who's really shitty to everyone else. He comes in and he thinks he's done something. He thinks this is a demon. That's what he was looking for, a demon. And then basically once he starts beating up the big monster, that does look like a demon right now, then it starts splatting, and then that's when Dick and Babs are like, "I knew it," and it turns out to be Clayface. So yeah, basically Dick and Babs are the ones that end up really dealing with Clayface and jumping in, and Damien's pissy about it, to the point where he even says, "I don't remember asking for your opinion, Dick." Like, it really emphasizes the word Dick on its own at the end, which is perfect. Honestly, it's peak Damien. So yeah, and then Damien starts thinking about how close Dick and Bruce are, because they both lost their parents at a young age, and one of the things that I really liked here actually is that he says, "Oh, Dick sort of learned under the the best of the best," and there's a panel of like Dick with Batman and Superman, right, when he was Robin, and it's kind of almost going back to that Mark Waid World's Finest stuff, where Dick maybe out of all the Robins got the most time with Superman, and it's just implied here, but it was a really interesting little bit to throw in, is like, oh, Jason never quite got that same privilege, and even Tim didn't either. That was like really a Dick thing in those early World's Finest days. But basically it talks about how Dick eventually, like he needed more of a father figure, and Batman's Batman, so that's when he split away and became Nightwing. Kind of doesn't really mention the Teen Titans, so I don't know if that happened in this continuity, or if they're just sort of simplifying it for the sake of getting through the story a bit quicker. So yeah, there's a great couple of panels here actually, where Babs and Dick are jumping up to get Clayface, and it shows you a panel of like when Dick was in the Flying Graysons, like grabbing his mum from like the high wire or whatever, and there's a panel right next to it of Nightwing grabbing Babs in the exact same way, and it shows like how he's basically using the exact same skills. It was just a really nice little bit. It was cute. So yeah. So yeah, there's more of this fight with Clayface. It's a fun time. Dick gives Babs a kiss in the cheek after they beat Clayface, which is also kind of cute. But they're like, okay, we have to take Damien back or whatever, and they turn around and Damien's gone, and then Babs just smiles and says, "Father like son." So Damien goes on the prowl. He's going through rooftops, and he hears a woman being mugged. So he's like, "Aha! Chance to prove myself." And he jumps down with a smoke bomb and strings up the guy for the police with a bat symbol sort of taped to his chest. And the old woman's like, "Oh, thank you, young man. The world's a better place with you in it." And he sort of begrudgingly thinks to himself, "Oh no." Probably my favorite thing about the art actually is every time Damien gets upset, he kind of shakes his fist like a supervillain, like he's like really upset. And the reason why he's upset here, because he goes from smiling at this compliment to being really upset, and like again, like the face goes into the silhouette, and you just see the white eyes, and it's basically I'm going, "Damn it, maybe that idiot Nightwing's right about something. Maybe the adoration for doing good stuff is actually there's something to it." So It's a really fun kind of quirk. It's as much as this is Black Label, it doesn't feel like it's Black Label. It's Black Label in that it's like out of continuity, but it's not Black Label in the sense that it's doing like, oh, this is a hard R rating kind of comic
Right.
where there's going to be more death and swearing and stuff.
It seems very kid friendly still.
Yeah, this feels like a super kid friendly take on like Damien's early days. And while that doesn't feel like it was that long ago, it's actually almost 20 years, and
Yeah.
it's not like we've overdone this. Like we've not went back and done this period that much, so it feels kind of fresh still, to be honest. So yeah, super fun. But then the demon, whatever this demon may be, grabs the woman that he just saved, and it pulls her up into the air, and she's yelling, "Help me!" So he jumps up to try and get her, but this demon, which has wings, flies off with her as if it's kidnapping different people. And I was very surprised, actually, that this was the last page of the book, because I was expecting like a 50, 60 page book like the other Black Labels. This was more like 35, so bigger than a regular issue, but not super, super big. And to be honest, it's such an easy read because it flows really quickly. It's not like over heavy on the dialogue. Like sometimes, like I feel like artists when they do write their own book, especially for the first time, they weirdly don't trust their own art to tell the story, and they overword everything. This actually felt like a solid example of an artist knowing that they're going to tell a lot of the story in the art, so they don't overstuff it with dialogue and narration. But it basically says at the end, he begrudgingly again kind of like frowns and says, "Ah, I need to track this beast, and for that I need a hunter." So I think it's implying that issue 2. You know, this issue was very much him like encountering Nightwing for part of the story. I think next issue is going to be him working with Jason for part of the story.
With
so
Red Hood. That makes sense. And then the third, there's 3 issues, right?
I don't know how many it is total, but there's at least 3. So I assume the third one will be with Tim. Yeah.
Yep. That'll be fun.
So
I'll get caught up by next month.
You should. It was just a fun issue. Honestly,
it sounds fun.
I started it thinking, oh, here's another book here, but honestly, like most of these Black Label books, by and large, like I've almost always grabbed me in that first issue and went, nah, you want to be reading this. Like this is better than half the ongoings you're reading. Feels super focused. Different kind of tone from normal. I was into it. It kind of treats Damien like he's I don't know, almost like he's Wednesday Addams from the Addams Family. You know, there's just a little bit of that vibe to him where he's like, I hate this world, but you know,
but it's still my world and I'll do what I want.
Yeah, kinda, yeah. So no, super fun. So yeah, no, very good. Like I say, the art style is very consistent and stylized throughout, but I do think it works for the tone that it's going for. I love the art in Damien when he gets angry, or he's huffing and puffing, or he's looking annoyed about something. Like all of that is constantly entertaining. So for as much as I would look at this and say it's not my type of preferred art style in a lot of ways, I can't deny that it wasn't constantly making me smile or enjoy whatever Damien was projecting through the art. So like there's a lot of smart stuff going into this craft. It's one of those things where it looks deceptively simple, but there's clearly a lot of thought that goes into like how this works. So very good. So yeah, very, very nice. So yeah, honestly, I'm going to 8.5. I don't feel like I really want to go straight to the 9, so I'm going to chicken out and say 8.5. But I recommend checking it out. I think it's worth the price of admission.